Hey everyone, sorry I was just adjusting my lighting. We are live yet again, and this will be one of my author's chats of the week. It's been kind of a hectic couple days, and partly that's due to the fact that we just adopted our dog yesterday, so if you hear noises in the background, it's because he has been baby gated off like half the house, and he can kind of see me or hear me, but he can't really get to me at this moment, so he's easing him into the space. Hello!
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good! Oh, I love your deck, and that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice outside and it's bedtime for the kids and my husband's finishing up with that. So I thought I would
I
just
love
come
it.
out here.
I love it. Yeah, it looks like a gorgeous day wherever you are. Where are you? You're in the West Coast? Mountain.
Close. East Coast.
Oh, well, okay, you're close to me. Okay, I was gonna say,
Oh, really?
well, I'm in the hills, so it's kind of like darker here, but I'm also like in like the valley of one of the hills, so I was like,
Oh, nice.
bright is it outside?
Although I thought, lighting would be good out here and like it is, but I've had a long day and you can kind of tell. But, no, I'm in Virginia. So
Okay.
where are you?
I'm in Georgia, so
Oh, okay. Just a couple
south of
states
you.
down, you
Yeah,
know.
just a little bit.
That's awesome. That's so fun. How long have you been on TikTok? I've seen you a lot, but like, how long have you been on?
Well, that's good. That means the algorithm hasn't forgotten me. But no, I've been on for a year and a half, close to 2 years,
Okay, nice.
I guess. Wow, time's weird this
I
year.
know.
Time.
I'm like, has it been almost 2 years? Or I guess it's been like a year and a half, a little over a year and a half for me, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gotta be it.
Well, that's cool.
Anyway.
Well, thank you for coming out and joining me today. And I know, with your hectic life, I'm just glad we could do this. So I'm
Woo,
excited.
yeah. Oh, hey, Katie's from Georgia too. You got somebody else from Georgia.
Hey, fellow Georgians. I love it. I love it. Well, let me do my normal intro spiel, which
Go
is
for it. You do
generally
it.
you introduce yourself, talk about a little bit about your writing and your work, and I'll kind of do the same, and we'll go from there.
Sweet. Well, you have like a whole setup. I have just my deck. But I brought my books out here with me.
Yes.
Um, I
Let's
have
go tell.
fewer than you do, for sure.
Okay.
Um, this is my stack of books. So
Woo.
I am a YA fantasy author and I write fast-paced, clean adventure fantasy, basically. So that means no real-world cursing, no smut, and yeah, but there's like dragons and assassins and stuff. So there's definitely still violence, but I would put it like PG-13, like nothing that's going to make you want to puke. Um, so this is the first book of my series, the Dragons and
Love
Assassins
it.
one, Dragon's Kiss.
Oh,
It's a 4-book series. I also have a standalone called The Forgotten Stone. And my favorite cover, I'm messing up my whole stack, but my very favorite cover is the 4th one of my series. This is my favorite one. I loved it already. And then I was like, can you add blood? And she was like, yeah, I got you. So I really like that one. So anyway, that's me.
I love it. And one, gorgeous covers, absolutely gorgeous covers, and we'll probably
Thank you.
talk a little bit more about them in a moment. But the
Yeah.
funny thing, if anybody who's chiming in and follows me, I've been doing my question of the day series, but this sub series is on items found on book covers, and I have now seen 2 of the ones that I've asked about. So on her covers, so just
I
throwing
have
that
to
out
know
there.
what they are then. You can introduce yourself first, but then I need to know what they are.
Okay, perfect. And for anybody who's listening in and doesn't know me, my name is Katharine Wibell, and I'm a fantasy author. I write epic fantasy. They range from um, the young adult, new adult to adult fiction, from the darkest kind of grim dark side of things, all the way to kind of paralleling where it's adventure fantasy, portal fantasy, clean fantasy, so on the brighter end of fantasy. But they're all under epic fantasy. So yes,
Yay!
and we can go more into that in a moment. I'm very shiny with this like light filter today. I feel like a
I
light
am
bulb.
I am the rough one right here.
Yeah.
Katie says any dragons.
Oh yes, yes. The funny thing is, I've always been obsessed with dragons, and so when my first series, my debut series, it starts with blue. When I wrote that without dragons, all the people who knew me directly were really perplexed. They had
Your
no
identity.
idea. Exactly. So my other two series that I'm publishing simultaneously, my young adult Portal Fantasy and my Dark Viking Fantasy, both will have dragons represented. Very different ones. This one's very close to the Norse mythos, so I keep it kind of true to that mythology. But I actually have a world of dragons and dragon-like species in my Portal Fantasy, so my magical multiverse. So you get to see a lot of dragons throughout that series.
That's so fun. Do you have 3 complete series, or are you like working on one of them?
One complete one, and that's starts with the blue, and it's called
Okay.
the Incarnate Saga. So that's a new adult war-based shifter fantasy, so animal shifters. But that was my debut one, and so I wrote 4, and then I jumped over to my young adult. But because my full lengths are kind of meaty, it takes me a little bit of time to get through them, and so I challenged myself to write shorter. So I'm doing a novella series, and because impatience and being a self-published author, I started doing them simultaneously, which is a bit of a trick.
Yeah.
Bit of a trick.
I haven't started doing that yet, but I have enough ideas to want to. And I just the other day was talking to another author friend of mine that I was like, this is how it happens, isn't it? It's this moment that makes me crazy like you. And he writes like multiple different. Oh, it gives me anxiety just thinking about it, but also I kind of want to.
I don't recommend it, though I know a lot of people who write multiple series, or at least, a couple simultaneously. And I guess it's really just balance and what you enjoy doing and the followers that you're trying to build and how closely they're similar versus different, because that may mean you have to change up your marketing strategy and something else to think about long term if you're jumping genres.
Yeah, I think I would have to be writing a lot faster than I am now to keep. I don't want people waiting a long time, because the last book I wrote, the last one is book 1 of a new series, a branch off series from Blood and Flame Saga. Oh, hey, Eric. I didn't realize he was here when I talked about him. I'm only writing 5 series. That's not that many. You are ridiculous in every way. Yeah, no, that's totally not that many.
I was like, I
just give you a panic attack inside? Because like it gives me a panic attack inside. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I forgot what I was saying, but that happens to me a lot.
From your original series.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So it took me like 3 months and a third, like not quite 3.5 months to write that one, but it takes me like roughly 4 months. A book gives me like a little bit of cushion for like outlining or things happening in life. So I try to slate myself like 4 months a book. But if I did one per series, I think it would be too long for people to wait.
Well, that's one of the things is, and I'll quickly side tangent. Yes, I had someone ask, do I ever go by Katie? If you're referring to anything about me as an author or as an artist, I also paint pets. I go by Katharine, so hopefully that clarifies. But now, see, I just jumped tangent. I totally forgot what I was about to say.
That's my entire life, so it's fine.
Oh, publishing, yeah. Because my full length, so for whatever reason, I was able to figure out I could probably squeeze 2 in a year, but because of the way, especially nowadays, the readers just want everything right away.
Yeah.
I think I wasn't fast enough, so I kind of switched things up, and maybe that was a bad thing in the long term for one of my series, just because now I'm publishing only 1 of my full lengths a year, but I'm squeezing in about 4 of my novellas.
More of the novellas.
So
that's
it
cool.
looks like I'm publishing 5 things, which I am, but 1's full length and the other 4 are novellas. So
you'll have to let me know how that goes. I haven't considered doing novellas yet. But what I'm doing right now is I take a little bit of a break between. Sorry, there's a helicopter. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
I hear, like you said, we have the new dog panting in the background because they're just like, why can't I get into this room? And I'm like,
what? Yeah, so I take like a little break between series. I don't actually take a break, but between publishing, because people were like, how can you release a book so fast? And I'm not that fast. Because I did Dragon's Kiss in October, book 2 February, book 3 April, book 4 June, and so I just had them all 4 of them were out in like 8 months, but they weren't really. Like, I was writing book 3 when I released book 1, so now I'm trying to kind of like catch up with myself. So book 1 of the new series is already done. Like, it's slated for editing in September, but I've written it already. and but I'm not going to launch it until December. So I'll just like catch up a little bit so that by the time I start, I should be able to do every 3-ish months again.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, oh, I love that. No, I do. I also do, and I'll get back to you in a moment. I see some questions coming in, but I also do a layered thing. So I'm always working on projects. It's
Yeah.
just, and that's why it looks like I'm turning them really quickly. But I'm like, I've written the. I have 3 right now of my young adult series, and I just finished the first draft of the 5th one. So I'm 2 ahead technically on
Stacking.
that one,
Yeah.
and I am 4 ahead of my novella series. But I'm always working on something in one stage, something else is going through editing, and something else is going through
Yep.
formatting, and then I'm going to be promoting, and then I'm doing this cycle, which again keeps me busy. But it looks like I'm writing things and turning them around faster than I am.
The sneaky ways.
Exactly. But we had a question coming in asking if we self-publish or use trad publishing houses or something in between. What about you? Because I know I'm self-published.
Same. Yeah. So I'm an indie publisher. So I like formed my own publishing house, but that doesn't, it's not fancy. Like it's myself basically is what that means.
You get
So
your
yeah,
imprint.
I've never pursued traditional. What'd you say?
You have your imprint name and everything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like, it is professional. But I've never actually pursued traditional. So when people ask me about that, I'm like, I haven't even tried it. I didn't really I briefly looked into it and just decided I don't know that that's for me, at least for right now. But they're both super viable.
Yeah, and they like everything. They have both sides have, or all sides. There's other things as well, but like they all have pros and cons, and you just have to decide what works best for you. For
Yeah.
an indie author, being a very control person. I like control. And so I like having control of the quality of my works, what goes on the cover, what they keep in versus,
Yeah.
if I went through the traditional
Even the
publishing
style of
company,
edit. Sometimes I'm
yeah,
like,
the style of editing and everything. And so, I have full control, which also means if something goes awry, it's on me.
yeah. Yeah, but
It's
at
my
least when
fault,
I have
or
that
I
panic,
didn't
I
do it.
know that
But,
any fixing is also on me and I'm not waiting on someone to not respond to me.
mhm,
I like that. I do. I like, yeah, it's a control thing for sure.
yep.
Which is awkward because like my day job is a therapist. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and that's like my regular like other job that I have. I do both. Um, I do chat with that still, but it's kind of funny because I'm like perfectionist.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe.
Absolutely. And again, that's one of the cool things. Like, if you do find an error, because even traditional publishing houses, when it comes to grammar and spelling, there's always going to be some kind of error
Something's
that
gonna slip
slips
through.
through. But when you're indie, it's a lot easier, depending on how you route yourself, to go in, edit
Yes.
the file, upload it, and then it's in a day or whatever
Yeah.
printed, and it's
I
like,
have
boom,
a
it
few.
never existed to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Because I have a few like my ARC team is awesome. I have a few like just super dedicated people. I love them so much, and I have like a little private Facebook group just for them to chat like ahead of time or whatever. And one of them was like, because I had let them kind of help me with any like if you find typos, send them to me now. And one of them was like the night before Crimson Queen, and they were like, "Oh no, did anybody catch this one? Did anybody catch this one?" And they were like, "No." And so at 9 p.m. the night before, I was like, "I'll fix it." And so I ran it and I just fixed it and changed it and re-uploaded it, and it was fine.
Yes.
And like it was nice to be able to do that and just know that it was covered.
Yes. Now, for anybody who's listening who's interested in the publishing side of things, again, there are contingencies with everything. If you do a pre-order and you're going through Amazon, you're locked in, I think it's several days in advance for making edits. But that means whoever orders a pre-order will probably get those errors. The day of
Yeah,
publication, you can go and upload a new file. It just means whoever is pre-ordering is going to get, the
the
oopsies.
old one. But like 72 hours or however long it takes to
Yeah.
update itself, then you'll be good to go.
Yep. So
Yeah.
it makes it very simple. I like that. And I also like the fact that, again, we'll go back to your covers in a moment because they were gorgeous. But like there are things about like cover design, and one, you want to be right in your niche and your subgenre and whatever and reflective of that. But because trend so much, being an indie author, you have the control of when to say, okay, now it's time to change and update my covers. Or if you like
Yep.
the originals, keep them. It's up to you to make those decisions. So
Yeah, for sure. Pre-orders. Yeah, I haven't gotten super. I do pre-orders are okay for me. I think a lot of people are waiting for like the signed copies or just like paperback. TikTok people love paperbacks just like me, so I feel like that's a lot too. That I don't know if you've noticed that, but like for me, people who order from TikTok, they want paperbacks, and I'm weird. I've like never read a book on a Kindle. I like the physical. You haven't either? Because
okay, wait, no. I
really
read
love
one novella because I was trying to understand the art of writing a novella, and so I read
Okay.
someone's novella, and it only came as an ebook, and that was the only time I did it, but it was a struggle for whatever
Yeah.
reason. And the only reason why I have a Kindle is every so often I'll download my stuff to make sure it just formats correctly, but I
Yeah.
don't really read ebooks. I like print.
My husband doesn't even read my books until until the proof copy comes in. I just yeah. So he's reading. He's on Noble Claims right now. He's actually behind, but it's okay. I'll forgive him, I guess, eventually. Because he wanted the like physical copy, which is fair. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, I spend all this time staring at a screen. Maybe that's why it is. But like typing and like doing all of the actual writing of the books. But then when I'm reading my own, I'm like reading books for me. I'm like if it's only a Kindle, I won't read it.
Oh yeah, and that's the only downside to that is unless you're a person who's probably smart and uses libraries. But if you're a hoarder like me, a book hoarder,
It's hefty.
run out of space real quickly when you start
Yeah.
collecting physical print.
You are not wrong. You are not wrong about that. It's true.
Yep, and I have another question that popped in saying that I have a full-time job and family and little time to write, 2 days a week at most. How much time do you dedicate to your writing?
Do you want to take that one first? I took the last one first.
Sure. Okay, so right now, crossing fingers, I am a full-time author and artist, so those are both my jobs that I kind of
Nice.
flesh out one to the other. So that allows me to dedicate a lot of time to do the writing, marketing, formatting, more so than someone who has a job on the side or is or raising families, and that you will find a lot of authors doing all that on here and still turning books and everything. I'm, my mind just can't figure out how y'all do that because I'm just like, as a full-time person, I spend like every waking moment, it feels like dedicated to the process, and I still like blink and I'm like, how do y'all do this? How do you be so cool? I don't know. Anywho, but it didn't start that way, obviously. So it took some time to get to where I am.
Yeah.
Now, how about you?
So how long have you been full time, by the way?
Uh, 2015?
Okay, that's awesome. That's
But I
super
also
awesome.
didn't know the whole marketing side of that, and so some of that was just figuring it out. It took me a long I'll
Fair.
say I feel like I'm better qualified to say I was full time right around COVID because at that point I started dedicating time
Yeah,
researching how am I supposed to market the books because I was floundering for years trying to figure
that
that one
makes
out.
a lot of sense. Yeah, so I am more towards the like foot in sort of. This doesn't make sense. I'm just gonna say basically what's going on right now. So when I first started, I was working full time and I did not have kids. The first book I wrote was this one. It's a 155,000 word rough draft, and then I think now it's 145. It's hefty, but this one took me a year and another year to edit, and I was working full time, and I had never done a book before. I think the fact that I had never done a book before is what made it take so long, and I didn't really like have a process yet. I like wasn't used to it or like whatever. So be aware that that like changes and increases and stuff because the second book I wrote was this one, and it took me 4 months, and I was working then too. Now I can't remember if I'd had a kid by then. My kids are 4 and 2. They are not old.
Yeah.
They are not both old enough to both be in school. That thing
Yep.
has not happened.
Yep.
So like I mentioned earlier, I am a licensed professional counselor, and right now, so my husband works, which not everyone has that scenario. But I work Mondays and Tuesdays, like full work days. And then Friday mornings, I have 3 hours at a Starbucks alone with no children. And otherwise, I write during nap times. I write during cancellations at work. And I sometimes even write in the evenings if I haven't gotten a chance earlier in the day. when one of them is in preschool, that helps, but over the summer I don't have that. And recently I have been able to pull back. I'm starting to pull back on my slots on Mondays to make that a writing day. So I'm still working the same. The kids' schedule doesn't change, but I am doing work on writing instead of work on counseling. So I find for me, and you might be different, but like for me, it's just the consistency. Like last year, my goal was only 800 words a day. And this year it's a little bit up from that, but it's not crazy. Like if I hit 1,000 words, I'm happy. If I hit 2,000, I'm ecstatic. But I still churned out, 250,000 words last year when my goal was 800 words a day, and I did some edits and stuff in there. Yeah. So you just have to find out what works for you. Consistency is a big deal. Also, I don't know if he wants me to do this, so sorry. Like Eric Euclid, who's in the comments, he's written like a crap load of books. He writes lit RPG. Back when you were in the circus, you wrote. Why do I not know you also did the circus? That's insane. I'm gonna ask you about that. Right backstage between cues. Yeah, I feel like it's just if you want to write, you just kind of like you figure out how to do it. And so some people are consistency every day, and that was what I needed. And then sometimes people do like if you have 2 days, you write for those 2 days. Like you just whatever you have, you make the best of it.
Oh yeah, and like some of these other names that are I would feel like becoming fairly recognizable on this platform. A.K. Mulford before she became full time. Like she was a working mom, and she when the kids were put down in bed, she wrote from when they went to bed till like 2 a.m. That was her thing. I'm not a late night person, so that would not have worked for me. But
I don't know what would happen in my stories at 2 a.m.
I don't know either. I was just like, it's not my schedule. I'm a morning person.
Yeah.
So different thing, but like you figure out, what works for you, and depending on it's dedication and what you value. If you value it enough, you're gonna find the time. You just do it.
Yeah, I like to say like scrimp and save, but for time. Like the same way that you would if you were hard on cash or like whatever. Like you're gonna scrimp and save, but you're gonna do it with time instead. And it's also like my me time. So if I haven't written in a while, well now I'm a little bit more like formulated with it. But like if I haven't written in a while, I'm grumpy, and it means I've had no time at all to my own self. And that's like it's not a good time for my household.
Nope. Nope. I understand. For me, like if I don't write new material, because it's now the way I'm able to function. But like if I don't write new material after a while, I start getting grumpy, and it doesn't matter. Like I could be sitting like all day marketing, advertising, doing some of these other things, doing lives, but there's still that thing in the back of my head. It's like I haven't put new words on paper. I could be
and like that's what you wanted to do when you started.
On paper. Yep.
Yeah.
I just wanted to write.
Yeah, like that was the original goal. And looky there, that's the thing about indie. It's like, oh, you are doing all of it. Uh-huh. I do have an outline format sort of system that I use. I just see Ashley Owen asked in the comments, what do you use first? If you have any, like, do you have, are you a pantser or what do you do?
Oh, I have a roundabout way, but yeah, I'm more on the lines of plotting.
Okay.
I do a hybrid thing where I plot enough, and just the way my brain works when I begin a project, I usually have a good estimate of how many books are in the series because I'm a series writer. I know the main characters, I know the objectives, I know kind of the ending of each of the books and the beginning of each of them. So I kind of have like that already established, and then I take some time trying to flesh out the storyline to an extent, but then I'm also okay with things writing themselves into being. So I get some really cool subplots and other characters that pop in them. They just appear, and you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't expect that kind of backstory. Huh. So I kind of do a little bit of both, but as far as like how I keep track of things, it's all over the board. I have my whole, it looks scary, the back of my desk that I haven't used in a couple months because I've expanded different places.
You got like the whole detective board going on?
Yep. I have the detective board. I have diagrams. I have sticky notes of all colors.
I love it.
On the computer, I do what I call rolling notes. So when I come up with like ideas, I fit them in kind of in a loose chronological order of the storyline. So when I get there, I can either plug them in if I can, but it allows me if I like come up with like have you ever popped in your head like a dialogue scene for something
Yes.
2 books in advance, and you're just like, oh, but I want to add this in, and I write it
So you
in.
have to
So I
write
just
it before you forget it, and then just like save
exactly.
it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like right now for one of my series, it's 40 pages of just rolling notes throughout all the books of the series. Like it just continues
That's
on.
awesome.
But how about you? How
Yeah.
do you keep track?
So, well, okay, so that's like two things. Like one is outlining and one is how to like track the different like info for it.
Oh yeah, those are two
Um,
different things. Yes.
yeah, so outlining, my first like really good intro to that was a book by Jeffrey Schechter, who is a screenwriter, but the principles apply. And it's called My Story Can Beat Up Your Story. I do not see enough people talking about that. Like people talk about Save the Cat, which I have but have still not read. But My Story Can Beat Up Your Story was awesome. It's funny, it's light, it's fast, and it's so good. It's so good. And anyway, yeah, he's just like snarky, and I appreciate it. Like there's this one particular part for the structure that he kind of lays out, and he's like, because he's a film writer, he was like, all the movies that hit whatever list or like do really well, they all follow this format. And if you think that I'm wrong and you have an example, email this email address and I will owe you $1. And if I can tell you why you're wrong, then you'll owe me $1. And then he just goes like, parentheses, it's a sucker bet, don't take it, you're going to lose $1. He's like, this is just like how it happens.
Yep.
So I really, his is very structured. So I started with that for the Blood and Flame saga, and it was really helpful. And then at 20 Books Vegas, I was introduced to John Truby, who his film student did like the X-Men and Pirates of the Caribbean. And he talks about having like at least like 3 genres layered on top of each other to hit the plot beats. And so I'm like weaving those. I'm kind of like redeveloping right now, and I think I'm going to kind of take pieces of both and weave them in to hit the main things I like. And then I'm an Excel girl, so like I have an Excel sheet of all of the names that I've ever used, because Brandon Sanderson mentioned that, doing that. So I have an Excel sheet color-coded by who lives in each book. And then I have like some timeline stuff, and then rolling random phone notes and Microsoft Word documents of random crap. And that's what
the life of a writer. And yeah, the question again was the book you're referring to was My Book Will Beat Up Your Book was the title?
My Story Can Beat Up Your Story. And it's like a middle school kid looking like he's going to start a fight on the front cover.
I love it. Well, I have a couple things. Okay, I do want to go back to 20 books for 50K and one, because I'm doing that I'm doing that.
You are?
Yeah. So,
and be there?
You will? Okay, because I don't know anybody there. And I was just like, this is my first time. I literally bought the plane tickets at the end of last week. So now I have the hotel, the conference tickets, and the plane tickets. I'm going. I'm there.
Yay! That's so fun. Okay.
But yeah, before we jump there, I did want to say yes. Talking about, the outline, not the outline, the data you collect on your characters. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, I can't think of the term that one of my editors calls it, but a style sheet. So, for people who don't know what that is, when you're writing, very smart. Keep some details on not just your names of your characters, but where they're from, their eye color,
yeah,
the things that you think you're gonna remember, and then 2 books in, you're like, what?
Yeah.
All the things, that's really good to keep. Like if they have any weird phrases or terms, like I just remembered one of my characters because I just finished the first draft of the 5th book of my clean YA Portal Fantasy, and I forgot that one of my characters develops an obsession with sandwiches. Now he's not from Earth, but he gets introduced to what a sandwich is, and he becomes obsessed with it. And I was like, I need to reintroduce this concept in this book. So I found a way to kind of put that back in, because it's just a funny quirk. But I was like, that makes the characters, that much real and vibrant. But I do like style sheets.
I love that. I don't have like official style sheets, but I do have a place where I have, and it's mostly, it's like base description, any fidgety things. So like when they're anxious, what do they do? And, expressions and stuff that they say, like Semra says is, rats and rot. She says rats and rot as her like expression. And, scourge is like a curse, that a bunch of people use, certain people use. And then Aviama has her own thing that she says. And so I have those like listed in there. And there's one, like a couple mannerisms, like there's a mannerism that one of my characters has, and then we don't know that it's him at another point. And then I had a reader be like, I knew it was him because of the way he was sitting on the couch. And I was like, yep, there it is. So it was kind of cool. Eric, buy your tickets. I just saw that. Yeah, so it's fun, and also it's nice because because I just finished book 1 of like the Connected series, so like we've met her before, so it's helpful too. Like if it's been a minute since I've seen it or whatever, like she's still the same person as you met in the first series, even though some things have happened to her. So like I want to keep all that continuity. So any of those like little random snippety things.
If you do, like for me, I have a lot of battle scenes, so I have to remember if any character develops an injury or a scar at some point to remind the reader that they had this from book whatever ago. Because I almost made that error with one of my book series, my Viking series. I was like, oh yeah, he has this like very pronounced scar and this certain feature, and I keep forgetting that he has it.
Like, keep that in there.
It's there.
It's the weird things you notice. I went back to do something, and I was like, I don't think I told everyone what happened to her shoes. And I had to like spend several minutes going back to find and like add a sentence to clarify what happened to her shoes because she's barefoot and there's a reason. And I was like, oh man. So I had to go back and find like where's the most reasonable, not slowing down the pace spot to add a sentence about her shoes.
Yep, just a little reminder sentence, you know. I understand.
Sprinkle. A little sprinkle.
Just a little bit. But yeah, let me know what you think. So you said you went to 20 Books Vegas last year, and I felt like last year there was so many people from Book Talk there, and so I signed up, and then everybody who I knew who did it last year was interested is not doing it this year, and I was just like, I really don't know anybody.
So sad. I ended up meeting, I met like a couple of people, Cindy Gunderson and Wallace Edson and like several other people that were on TikTok and that I had met here, that I met there. And Cindy was my like person. She kind of like walked me around. And I was like, thank you. And that was great. So super helpful. Yeah. So, but there were a bunch of people, and it was weird too because I'm not like, I don't know. I'm not like rolling in it. I'm not famous, anything like that. I had 15 people like come up to me that I didn't know and like know who I was and like talk to me. Cool. It was so funny. I was like, this is such a strange experience for me because it just had never happened before. And they were like, oh, excuse me, are you EA Winters? And I was like, yeah. It was so funny. I know. I was like, what? And what's hilarious too is one of the times that it happened, Emily Blackwood was right next to me and we were talking. I was talking with Emily, who I had just met because I recognized her. And I was like, hi. And she was like, oh, hey. And we'd recognized each other's names. And so I chatted with her for a few minutes and we went and like sat somewhere for a few minutes. But I was talking to her, obviously doing way better than I am, like sales wise and like getting out there and like whatever her viral stuff. I've got nothing really viral. I'm just like consistent, But it was so funny because while I was talking to her, somebody walked up to me and I was like, would she like me to mention her or not? It was kind of funny. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Well, I may be picking your brain closer in to be like, what do I need to know and all this stuff? Because again, super brand new. And actually, this will be my first literary, like, big travel conference ever. So.
And it was my first time I went anywhere alone since having kids. So for me, it was like triple win. Like it was. My husband took time off of work to watch the kids by himself at home so that I could go.
Well, that's so cool. Okay, well, you said you might be going this year?
I am going. I'm booked. I have
keep my eye out for you. Again, I was like,
I'm ready. I'm going. Nothing. Listen, if I'm not going to Vegas, I might not be okay. So I will be there. I will be there.
I love it. Well, for anybody who doesn't know, 20 Books 50K is probably one of the biggest
indie conference.
Biggest, indie conference in the States, and probably rivaling one of the biggest one internationally too at this point. I mean, it is a huge thing. Yeah. So
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Come see us in Vegas, November.
Yep, 20 books to 50K. Sorry, so I was verifying. Yeah, that's what, because one of the
Am I
founders
only
that's there
getting
for life.
comments from, do you not see all the same comments that I see?
No, no, what happens is if I
Dang.
think this is my theory, I've never figured it out. My theory
It's like
is if
whoever
someone,
joined from which side.
yeah, well, it depends on which side and depends if they're following both of us too, initially. So,
Oh, that's
I know people
weird.
can follow us at any point, but I think I only see the people who followed me before this, and you only see people
Okay,
who followed only you. And if anybody,
got it.
sometimes I see other, I don't know, I've
Like,
never figured this out.
that's
I think
weird.
it's
Okay, wait. So then before we move on, because I forgot, so another question was, how do you start your day writing time? Any rituals or music? Do you do anything in particular to like start off your day? Hi,
Um,
Sarah.
I'm a I'm a creature of habit, so I try to do the similar routine and kind of also keeping an eye on the clock of okay, at this point I need to wrap up checking my base emails and moving into sitting down and doing my writing block, and I do that for 2 to 2.5 hours of that's my new words on paper time in the morning. But yeah, I have like a certain routine. I check my ads because I'm still trying to figure out ads. Such a, I'm not good at that. And then I do some email checks and then I move into my new writing because I'm a morning person, and then the afternoons are kind of open for whatever needs to be it editing or formatting or marketing and stuff like that depending on the day. So I kind of have a daily flow of how I progress.
Yeah, that's awesome. My dream, once both children are in school, it will look more like that, like the creative writing time, like first thing in the morning, knock that out, and then like some of the other stuff. Because I also write children's books, but under my like actual name,
Yeah,
because my name is Erin. It's not like a secret. I just I just separated them. Um,
market
for
help.
algorithms and such. Yeah, and like branding and stuff. So I do kids books under Aaron Winters, and I do fantasy under EA Winters. Can't say my own name. That's cool. And yeah. So anyway, but my goal is to do like the writing stuff in the morning, and then eventually. So that sounds awesome. I love that. For me, I don't really do any music or anything at all. I'll read through what I did before. I have the closest thing to a tradition or like routine is probably my chai tea latte.
Hey,
I have the concentrate to make it at home. I'm obsessed. It's a problem. And yeah, so I just like try to have, sometimes I'll have one, sometimes I won't, but I'll try to have like, something to drink, get all my stuff together, and then just sit down and peruse what I had done before and try to just get into a zone as much as I can. And if I'm at Starbucks, it's easier because I'm just used to writing at Starbucks now
ooh,
from like
you're
cancellations and stuff. Huh?
I said you're a public writer. I've never been able to write in public, and that's just because for whatever reason I have to be like full concentration for again new words on paper.
Yeah.
If I'm doing edits, that's different story. But when I'm trying to write something new, I have to be like in my zone, in my own house, in a quiet space with coffee black. That's the way I drink.
That's the important
but
thing. I think it's good necessity. Yeah, that makes sense. It's been born of necessity because my house is not necessarily always quiet.
hmm
Because toddlers.
hmm
So I do write at home. I also find that if I'm at home, I will want to write on my couch, and if I write on my couch, I want to write like a 3-year-old watching TV, like in the worst possible position, drowned in my blanket and in the cushions eating me. And if I do that, then you can't concentrate as good if you're not sitting up like a real person. So I try to sit at the table, but sometimes I don't. So if I leave, I'm forced to sit in an upright chair. I have
That's
to.
actually true.
Yeah,
Upright for whatever reason. Like I've tried the whole couch thing when he's lounging,
I
but it's
know.
half the words in the amount of time. I don't
Ugh.
know. Maybe
It really
it's
does
just
slow you down, but it makes me so sad inside. But if I'm at the Starbucks, I think I'm used to writing in that particular spot that's out. I don't know that I don't know where else I don't know, but we'll see. But because it's just like cancellations and stuff, like where do I go? Like that's just my spot. So I've just used, they know who I am. So they're used to me. And it's just that I've made that be a thing. And I think like discipline and consistency will kind of like with whatever it is that you're trying to do. So like I swore that people always told me like, oh, you should do sprints, and I was like, sprints aren't going to do that much of a difference. And my golly, I was wrong because they are helpful. So running sprints, I have a little like writing group and we run sprints on Discord, and that is super, super helpful if they're around. And the only con is that if they are not, and I'm like, anybody around? I'll like wait around and be like, maybe they'll show up, and like not do anything. So that's the only con. But then I'll get my button gear eventually.
I got you. Well, I have to say, I'm not a mom, but we literally adopted our new dog yesterday, and for the past 2 days, my work load has gone way down because he's just everywhere, and he's constantly moving around, and then
Is it a
he's
puppy?
just like
Is it a little
face,
puppy?
and I'm just like hold up, and so I'm trying to teach him to crate train, and then of course he's whining in the back, and I'm like trying to put words and write and concentrate on edits, and I'm like, this is hard. This is so hard.
Welcome to the time when you're in the middle of there's a dragon swooping down and an assassin is attacking and something really important is about to happen and somebody pees on the floor. So, welcome to the circle.
Yep.
You just hope it's not poop, that's all that you can hope for.
That's so true. Actually, they're bringing it back, and yes, I love the local coffee shop idea. I wish I was a coffee shop writer, and I got some laughter coming your way for that story. But with that said, let me actually go back. So, what is your book series, your original book series? What is the premise? I don't know if we've actually
the
done
premise.
Too far.
Oh, that seems like an important. This dog is so annoying.
Yeah, let's do this. Okay.
Oh, should be shutting up soon. We literally had a really annoying dog at the last house we lived in. We moved, and they have 3 annoying dogs. I mean, one of them is not annoying, but 2 of them are. So it's a high percentage. You're still gonna be able to hear them, but
I'm impressed that our new one hasn't tried to bark based off yours. I heard him like his little collar jingle as he's pacing out in the hall.
Somebody just said, sell me the dog. I don't know if you mean her dog, which she probably doesn't want to do, but my neighbor's dogs. I can't because they're not mine, but I would though. And I like dogs, but I would do it. Somebody else said you guys are really pretty. Shucks. That's so nice. So what they are about. My first one, I'm still terrible at explaining. The other one I'm good at. Decently, I would say.
Okay. Sometimes it just takes time and practice, and you have to find the right pitch.
I know. Well, I think so because I didn't know what this is another like note for any writers that are listening. God, stupid dog. There's another note about that is like if you can't, for me, if I can't quick pitch the book in 30 seconds to myself before I write it, I'm not going to be able to do it after I write it. It's only going to get more complicated. I try to do the blurb before I write the book because I'm only going to be more confused about what to cut and what to keep. Whereas if I'm at the bones of the story, I keep the bones of the story to the blurb. So that helps a lot. And I think because I didn't do that in the first one and because of a couple other things I can get into later, it makes me harder to pitch this one. So I usually say, but it's not because people don't enjoy it. Like, it's a fun quest adventure. So this one is a Lord of the Rings meets Narnia quest adventure sort of thing. So it's super fun. It's a myth legend quest kind of thing where basically this completely skilled tavern girl is she's in a brutal society and she's getting chased down by somebody who she accidentally offended. She literally stumbles and falls into the quest of a lifetime. She can't go home or she'll die. If she stays on it, she might die. And the leader of the team is not excited to have a non-elite, clueless person on his team. And he's trying to kick her off, and she has to find a way to survive and save her people who are being threatened by tribesmen. Sort of like Attila the Hun, sort of tribesman. Yeah. And then poor pup just wants his 15 minutes, or maybe 15 pages. That's hilarious. Well, maybe the 15 minutes are up. And then this one, the Dragons and Assassins series. This is book 1 of it. The whole series is here. But basically, that is every month a dragon comes and snatches a child from this village, and every month it takes one of the kids, and the village of Kalma thinks that like it's just eating these kids, snatching them, and that they're gone, and that they've died. But there's a dragon lord in the mountain raising them up into his own personal indoctrinated syndicate of assassins. And so Semra, my main character, is one of those assassins, and she knows the truth, and she uncovers this lie that the Dragon Lord has been hiding. And when she does that, she is just like ready to expose it all. So he is working on a royal coup for the entire kingdom, and so she decides to basically do everything to expose him and risks everything. And she ends up betraying, there's like this whole army of assassins that are after her now, trying to save the kingdom from a royal coup. And there are dragons.
I love it. I absolutely love it. No,
Thanks. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say I heard one of your pitches for that on your page not that long ago, and I was like, that is just up my alley. Yes.
I mean, I write what I like to read, so, but like Dragons and Assassins just sounded like so much fun. And it turns out like it's so much fun.
It turns out I was right. They are so.
Turns out. I mean, at least it was for me. People seem to really be enjoying it so far, so that's encouraging. But somebody said Forgotten Stone was amazing. I've read it twice. Oh, and she's stuck around for like she's read all my books now, I think. It's so sweet. So tell me a little bit more. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to ask how many books are in that series.
4. It's a 4-book. The Dragons and Assassins series is a 4-book series, and all 4, the complete saga is out right now on Amazon. Is the best place to get it. So the whole thing is out. So it's in KU as well. If you've got Kindle Unlimited, you can read them for free. And the series I'm working on right now will be a trilogy that's attached to it. So we take a secondary character, and she becomes the main character, which everyone was like protect at all costs, and then I made her a main character. And we all know what happens to main characters, a lot of things. So anyway, yeah. But that'll be like an attached series, but its own thing.
No, and that's a fantastic thing to do. I mean, if you already dedicated the time to world build so much in your own universe that you're developing, and that's why a lot of authors, I feel like more and more that I see a lot of authors writing subsequent series within the universe, and somehow they're all interconnected in the sense, at least on the same geography, at the very least, if they don't cross paths. But it's because you spent all this time world building, and it's something that I feel like I should do more, but I don't, because as soon as I finish a series, I'm jumping to some other totally different new make, and I'm like, man, I'm just creating a lot of work.
Well, the one thing that I think so I see some people do like 15-book series, like one continuous. I don't, that, I mean, now that I've said it, like, watch me, but I don't think I could do that. And part of the reason is because, well, first of all, like the world building, like you said, like I love the, it's fun, and it's a lot less work to be like, oh yeah, like this happened. And then I have, like, I've mentioned this thing called the crumbling, when basically magic was destroyed, and then some other things like, oh, man. And but I considered making that a trilogy, like a prequel trilogy, and I know the title, and I know some of the stuff that would happen, and I have a document on it, and I don't know when I'm ever going to get to that, if I do. But I know enough to make it the lore, right? And so like it's all like connected and stuff, and when I'm reading, it's super fun because I have like Lee Bardugo, Shadow and Bone, and like the Rule of Wolves, and I loved those connected things. And it's just so fun as a reader too to be like, oh, that's an Easter egg, like, oh, that's so cool, like this is connected to that. And like I love it personally, and it makes it a lot of fun to write, and it's helpful for marketing as well. But it's just like there's just so many pros to it, and you've already built the world building, and it's so much fun. But the other thing is it's cool because I can, by doing a connected series but a different series, I can still blow out the map, because I can do something completely different. I can explore, like, there aren't pirates and a lot of like water kind of stuff. I mean, there's some rivers, but there's not like a lot in this one. But in the new trilogy, I run into like new creatures and places and things and cultures. But there's no reason for some of the other characters that I had to go there. For their story, it didn't make sense. But for me, I get to create and still do fun, new, cool stuff, but not from scratch. I get to make it more rich in the world that I already have, which for me has been so much fun. And I feel like it's just there are pirates. I'm gonna have, well, I haven't done the outline yet.
Pirates are very trendy right now. I'm just saying. All sorts.
I know. I'm thinking either book 2 or book 3 of the trilogy, because right now I do have a mermaid in book 1, which I haven't done before, which was fun. But like there wasn't a good place for that before, you know? So I could just create that and it's built on like different cultures and different and because my main character for that, she's like so Summer's an assassin. It's not hard to make exciting things happen to assassins, especially when there's an army of assassins trying to kill her all the time. So, but she can do hand to hand, and she's really good at all kinds of things. And Aviama like sucks at all that. Like she doesn't fight. She's girly. She likes dresses. Like it's just very very different. So it's more like espionage and blackmail to start, and then we get into some of the other stuff. So it's cool because I get to kind of like be challenged in new ways too.
I love that. Yeah, I was gonna say the only time I've ever touched on like the assassin concept is I did a prequel, very, very, very prequel short story that pertained to my original series that I give out. It's one of those freebies I give out for my newsletter subscribers.
Yeah,
But that
yeah.
was kind of fun trying just something very different and just kind of dabbling with something
Mm,
new. And kind of, again, it wouldn't
so
have made
fun.
sense to do something like that in this particular series, but
Right.
it worked for like the little prequel kind of tie-in.
That's super fun. You can still like dip into it and play around.
Exactly. And I have a question for us that popped up and asked if either of us use Scrivener or another tool, maybe just using OneNote. I'm a Word girl. I am old school Word and Excel. That is what I do. And sticky notes. Constant sticky notes.
I am, yeah, I'm Word too. Word document. I format with Vellum because I love it. I've heard a lot of good things about Scrivener. Scrivener. I know a lot of people use it and enjoy it, but I'm a Word document and Excel kind of person, and I have like copious random notes on my phone. I also had a question. What are the books about behind you? So that would be you. So tell a little bit more about like what your books
Okay,
are.
30 seconds.
Let's go, man. Let's do it.
I forgot to bring out my water glass. I usually have one in reach, and I'm like, if I sound
Stay
scratchy,
on your toes. Oh yeah.
but okay, so I got 30-second pitches. Okay, so we'll start with my young adult clean fantasy. It's a portal fantasy. I have this one right here starts with the 12 tasks. The whole series is called the Jed Chronicles. I have the first 3 out, and it is a magical multiverse. There are 12 magical worlds, multiple dimensions. It's pretty much a fun magical free for all of all sorts of things. I love it. But the concept is ever since the beginning of time, as we know it, there have been polar opposite forces that kind of affect the balance that maintains life itself. And during those biggest throttles where this balance is at risk of being destroyed, a prophesized hero, in this particular case, heroine, arises out of an obscure world and is pulled into the mess to try to set things right. So that one's a lot of fun for me because I get to play with a whole lot of things. It is on the adventure and questing and the little more optimistic, so noble bright side of
Yep.
fantasy for that series.
That's
My
so fun.
debut, yeah, my debut series with 4 books. It is my only complete one. It starts with The Lady in the Blue, Asara's Claws, and it's called the Incarn Saga. And this is a war shifter fantasy. So a kingdom is on a verge of war, and a draft is called, whereupon my main character, who is actually an animal shifter, is pulled into this mess and goes along to try to defend her kingdom against this oncoming threat. And there's a lot of questions if her race and humans that are the ruling populace can put aside their years long disagreement and distrust in order to fend off this upcoming threat. But it does have a lot to do with prophecy and has the magical weapons and other things that go along in that particular series. But that's for
So
new adults, so
fun.
it gets a little darker. And my final series is The Guardian Speaker. The volumes, they're novellas. It's a dark Viking fantasy, starting volume with 1, and they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going. But it is definitely a dark retelling of Norse mythology, starting with some really obscure myth, and then later, much later on, you'll see the flashier, the Thor and the Odin. But we're
Oh,
starting
cool.
with some very different stuff that most people don't recognize. For instance, like Fujir, which are animal-shaped guardian spirits that everybody has, that are invisible
Okay.
female entities that are supposed to help guide mankind. And we kind of start with that concept. But readers will get to explore all 9 realms within Norse fantasy or mythology before the end. So
I like that you're starting with something different and then you get some of the like like some of the more like known per se kind of stuff. I think that's super cool. And when you say that you're because you said you had YA and then like new adult, and then like adult fantasy, right? So, and when you say that, because I know some of my people like, some of them like clean and spicy, some of them prefer clean. So, like, just for prep for whichever one my people may be watching, yours, are any of yours spicy, and if so, which ones?
Okay, so I don't write a lot of spice. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't going to be romantic elements throughout all of them. And of course, more so, you're going to probably see some spicy scenes in my adult series as
Okay.
well as it goes on. It's very slow build. But I don't identify them as romance or spice per
Okay.
se. It's the adventure, the questing, the war, the all this other stuff. That's the
Yeah.
main feature, and the romance is more of a subplot in
Cool.
them. So.
Cool. That's helpful. Yeah, because mine are slow burn like romantic tension and stuff, but it's mostly it's often like subplot and stuff, but I don't have like any mature sexual content in it. It's
Yeah.
pretty PG-13.
Yeah.
But since yours like spanned the yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. It's cool that you have one kind of in each. Do you prefer writing one over the other, or is it just kind of like your mood, or you just enjoy them all?
I think it depends on my mood. I do like dark fantasy, and so it's fun to get into the kind of the darker stuff in the sense of
Or
I
your
like grit and
mm-hmm.
very grim dark vibes on sometimes and stuff like that. But I wanted to do a young adult one. Actually, this was inspired by a whole multiverse that my sister and I kind of came up with. We didn't know the term multiverse when we were yay big, like when we were children too. So my alter ego is the main character, and my sister has been like morphed into one of the other characters, and it's kind of like a retelling of our childhood universe that we
Oh,
developed,
that's so
which is a lot of
fun.
fun. But it's very again optimistic. It is on the clean side. There's wars and battles and people are going to be unalive periodically, but it's not
Dun, dun, dun.
like the darker side of
Yeah.
things.
The theme and like the feel, the vibe of it is
Oh
different.
yeah,
That's super
oh
cool. I like how you said that some of it is like based off of like your sister and like retellings and stuff. That's really cool. I think one of the things that makes that originally made Forgotten Stone harder for me to like describe is because since it was my first one, it took me a year to write, a year to edit. Like it took, I was very like this, which I think for first books, that's common for people.
yeah.
Like so many people like have a really hard time letting their first book go, and one of the biggest things that yeah, which obviously it did well though. Like it looks like it's crushing it. It's got like over 400 reviews on Amazon. That one looks
Well,
amazing. I
okay,
stopped doing a little bit.
but it was published in 2016, and it took a long time for me to figure out how to market it,
Okay.
how to pitch it. So yes, it has 400 reviews at this moment, but it's been lots of years,
It's
lots
been a
of
long time.
testing, lots of ads tests, lots of like figuring out freebies and how to like lure people
That's
to
so
like give
fun
me a
though.
review. And
Yeah, got it. Is it its first cover, or have you done several?
these are all, yeah, everything so far is first cover. Eventually, I know I'll probably have to consider doing a revamp at some point, but have yet
Oh,
to do that
great.
yet.
Well, so for this one, because this is my first one, I actually have, I don't talk about this much actually. I don't know how much that this is, um, how many people know this, but I have several people in here that are based off of people I know. And when I first was starting, I used that as kind of like what would so and so do as like a general guide for. It's like I don't want to just write everyone like me. I want them all to be different. So I have like 5 people based off of people that I know. And there was one time I actually got stuck because I was a little bit more pantsy on that one, and now I'm very much like plotter. But I was figuring myself out, and I was like, that's just who I am. And it's like, that's not who I am. I just didn't know my style yet. But
You have to learn
it was still kind of fun. And now I'm kind of getting back to like some of the things about Forgotten Stone that are surprising, I think is because of that, which is kind of cool. Anyways, but the main character is based off of me, not that she is me, but based off of me somewhat because, it was like, well, I know how I think, which is why it was fun doing that. And then Dragon's Kiss character is so different from me. I can like I'm more confident as a writer in a lot of ways too, you know. But there was one point I was like, oh man, this like horrible, annoying Gaston sort of leader guy is acting in this way. And I chatted with my friends. I was like, because somebody was based off of her, and I was like, so what would like you do if this sort of scenario came up? And she was like, oh, I would screw with that. I would just like throw wrenches in and see what happens, just to mess with him because he would annoy me. And I was like, ha, excellent, yes, because that's not how I would have done it, but that's 100% what she would have done, and that's what I did, and it actually worked out super fun. So I ended up kind of like doing things like that. My husband is in there partway through, and I actually recreated like our meeting, but in a fantasy version. So yeah, so that was kind of fun. Like we actually met on a psych unit working mental health. We were both staff. He loves to just tell people that we met at a psych unit and not explain it. Just let that ride. And I'm like, oh, so I don't always let it sit for very long, but he enjoys it so much. I usually let him hold on to it for a minute.
Give it a moment. Pause 1 second. Okay. So
yeah, exactly. Like, are you enjoying yourself, Chris? But so I kind of like recreated my first meeting with him, but like fantasy version in this book, which was kind of fun. Yeah. But anyways, it's interesting to see how people like progress with their process and stuff too.
Yeah, and like, well, a couple things actually. Think about that. Honestly, outside of my sister and myself, those are the only characters I've ever based off people, and everything else is like the characters. But what that means is I also will take ideas of like, okay, I had a friend who had an issue where they had a shoulder that was easy to dislocate, and I just was like, okay, tell me more. How does this feel? How does this happen? Explain to me, because I want to give a character this injury and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of pick and choose. They aren't any particular person, but they do have like vibes of different things. Yes. But I actually have to. I put my foot in my mouth. Honestly, no. As far as Claws, that was not the first cover. I came out again. I've done everything the wrong way. So I came out with a cover that I was like, well, I want it to be what I want it to be, and I came out with a totally different idea of how it should look. And being an artist, I was dabbling. I was like, I can paint my own cover, and I was like doing all that. Well, the problem was it wasn't right for the subgenre and niche and the age bracket and all the jazz. So as soon as I did more research and realized I need to be more, at least closer into what all the competition was like, and switched up the cover, that's when I started seeing sales. So that's the only one I've ever changed.
Because we talked about covers a little bit earlier. Yeah, like covers. Oh man, I love object covers, as evidenced by me having 5 of them. I love them. I think they're so fun. I do like the ones with people on them, depending on what they are, but I'm pickier about it. But they do so well. And I think because I'm now more like YA, that I am planning on putting people on the next ones. But now I've kind of built up like a portfolio of like inspiration ones, and I'm like, okay, there's some really cool ones like this. So now I'm like, I have one ready for my designer, and I'm like so excited because I get that cover next month in just a couple weeks actually, for book 1 of the new series, and I'm gonna try putting a person on it. But I love the covers that I have of the ones I have so far that I'm like not willing to change them and like until I don't know when. But
I totally agree. Like, well, also hold them for a little while because you want to have enough that they become special editions at some point too.
Fantasy has different, like if you do like cozy romance, like everyone knows exactly what those covers look like, or like there's certain genres that are like this is the way. But fantasy does have a couple different ones that do seem to do well. There's some that are like Lit RPG seems to be like the drawn art ones. So it does depend, but I've seen both do well in fantasy. So I don't know. I'm excited.
And I did have a question pop up. It said, as self-published authors, what do you do for content or even copy/line editors? Oh yes, this was one of the ones that had popped up earlier, was editors and where do we find them and how, because upcoming author.
Yeah. Where did I find mine? I think it was I've had people, I just had someone say your favorite cover was Broken Bonds of mine. This is Broken Bonds. Thank you. I think I found mine through a Facebook group, and then I thought, well, I'm a new author. I had a great experience with her. She was awesome. Loved her. She did my second book as well. And then I thought, but I'm a new person. I'm trying to like gain, my professionalism and like my experience and knowledge in this field. So I should probably have an experience with more than one editor. And so I hired another editor that I actually found on TikTok. Someone sent her to me. And I used her. She was great on the developmental edit. I didn't love the line and some other things, and I found myself going back and like fixing stuff back to what I had, which took a long time and was twice as expensive as my original. So I'm back with her now, and I love her. But I found her through like some of my Facebook groups. I can't remember if it was 20 books to 50K, but it was something similar if it wasn't that. What about you?
Well, for me, I was fortunate. I kind of fell into my first editor because when I was younger, my mother was actually involved with a local writers group, and the writers were very, very talented in this group. We had people who were international recognized, like haiku poets, to all these kind of things, to self-published authors, etc., so on. One of them was a professional editor who retired from the mainstream bracket but was picking up indie, essentially, just kind of like as a side hobby kind of gig. And so meeting her through that route, that's how I ended up with her. And she's one of those, miracle editors that does a little bit of everything.
Ooh, that's nice.
But the downside is, and I've said this, like, downside is she's kind of slowly moving towards retirement. So at any point, I will be up and shopping for a new editor in some sense. I've also worked with, surprisingly, again, fortune falls. My mother actually has editing skills, and so she worked with me on some of my other projects. So I've kind of bounced around, but there are a lot. It's always intriguing to me where people find editors because, like you said, there's groups on other platforms like 20 books to 50K. There's platforms like Readsy that I know is kind of catered a little bit more. Now, I haven't used either of them myself, but I have heard a lot of people find them. And then through questioning and asking other authors if they have recommendations. So.
And make sure you get a sample edit. If you don't have a personal referral, and even if you do, like, get a sample edit. And you can get a sample edit from several people. Like, just if anybody who's, like, you can get sample edits from several people. That's part of the job. It's okay to get that. It's standard. So, like, just do that and make sure you like it. And it does a good job. Yeah, I've met several people who, like, they married editors or something. And I'm like, come on. Like, that's not even fair. I hate editing my own self, and like I don't think I'm terrible at it, but I obviously don't. I need someone who's not me, and yeah, like I need an actual professional editor, obviously. But yeah, like my I don't like it, but my husband would die before he edited my books. So it's just not. Nope. So okay, so I am jealous of those people because spouses don't charge a lot.
No, I actually did meet. I think it was last week. Last week for my live, I was actually talking with. They were not authors actually. But they were in this book talk community. Their handles are Crab and Bell, and the one who goes, I think it was Crab, is actually an editor, and all they do is help promote and work with indie authors. And so I have not. So I don't, but she's one that she was like, yes, please always ask for a demo and give you a sample test and go through that process no matter who you use. But we were talking about that a little bit of during that live session, was just trying to figure that part out for indie authors who are trying to search for editing. That's important.
Somebody else knows about them too. Said love Crab and Bell. They're great people. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I actually really was kind of enthralled with the amount of love they have for the book talk indie community, and they really do try to help our books out. Yeah, so
that's amazing.
Okay, I think we've gone through most of the questions that I had received earlier, but while I'm kind of skimming through them, let me ask before we wrap up, where can people find you outside? Obviously, you're on Book Talk. Where else can people find you, follow you, find your books?
What an excellent question. I am obviously on TikTok. My biggest presence is on TikTok, and Unfortunately, regrettably, I for a while was sort of neglecting other platforms, but now I'm on there actually. So followings are getting started now again. So I am on Facebook under EA Winters Fantasy Corner, and then I'm on Instagram as EA Winters. I think there's decimals E.A.Winters on Instagram. And my website, you have a newsletter as well. You can get, I'm going to be setting up a freebie for that as well, but you get like special updates and stuff. So Facebook, Instagram, newsletter. And if you go to my page and just tap the link tree, you'll see how to sign up to my newsletter and everything. And yeah, I forgot the other thing that I was going to say, but where can we find you? Oh, I wanted to say, if anybody else, also, if people don't know that you follow an author on Amazon, and they will send you an email as well when a new release comes out for whoever that is. So you can follow on Amazon, but if you follow their newsletter, you'll get a lot more information than you would from Amazon. Katharine.
Well, actually, I mean, just one more thing. Where can people get your books? Obviously, we talked about Kindle Limited early on, but can your books be found wide, or are you exclusive through Amazon, or how about that?
I've done a bad job of putting them out wide. I've mostly been Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. So ebook is exclusive to Amazon for sure because of to you, obviously. But I have Dragon's Kiss wide. I think Broken Bonds you can find like online at Barnes & Noble and stuff. But the best bang for your buck is still going to be Amazon, just being honest. The prices and stuff other places. If you want signed copies, you can go to my website and order signed copies directly from me. I actually just sent out a whole bunch. I have more in my mailbox right now. I sent out a bunch yesterday. Which platform gives you the most money for us to buy books and such? Where would you like us to buy? Oh, that's so sweet. Honestly, I want you to just get them wherever you want to get them. Amazon is probably best for me. If you want to be like super best for me, maybe signed copies for me. Yeah, signed copies directly for me is probably the best like profit margin for me. And secondly would probably be just Amazon. But I'm excited that you're reading and enjoying them wherever you get them. So Ashley, yours is in the mail now. If you haven't gotten it yet, it will be super soon. So I just saw you comment. But like I had it, I don't know if you saw my other video the other day, but like yours was in the stack of books that I was carrying to my mailbox. So I can't wait for you to get it. I do have them in my local Barnes & Noble, but it's not like in all Barnes & Nobles.
That because for indie authors usually have to, even if you do go wide, which means you'll be found on their online library, to get them into a physical bookstore, you still kind of have to knock on doors routine, which I've not done because I'm exclusive through Dawn. So
yeah.
But yeah, my books are found Kindle Limited. They're paperback and hardcover on Zon, and the few that have made it to Audible, eventually they all will be audiobooks, but I have 5 right now that are audiobooks, and they're through Audible in iTunes. So,
did you do per finished hour, or did you do royalty split? Because I want to do per finished hour, but I can't afford to make them all yet.
I have done it all.
You did what?
I've done it all. So all 3 of my series I am converting at the moment, and so 2 of them I'm doing the pay in full. And for different reasons, and one of them because the fact that I already had 2 projects starting, it was nice that she offered to do the split, and I was like, I've never done that, and it would be nice to do the royalty split, because what that means is that, for anybody who doesn't know, what that means is that I don't have to pay them outright, but we have a contract for, I think it's about 7 years, that we split 50-50 for all the profits, which are 40% of whatever.
And sometimes there's a mix. Like some contracts are like you pay a portion up front and then it's a royalty split. Like there's different types of contracts. And per finished hour is like you just give them a fixed fee per hour of their work. It's per finished hour because an hour of audio is like multiple hours of work. And that's what the other one is. So I was asking because I have looked into audio a little bit. I've had a few people ask me about it. And I would love to get audio for my books. But I want to do per finished hour, but maybe I won't. But they're so expensive. Have you thought of kickstarting for audiobooks? I don't mean, that's not Okay, I explain my reaction. Have I thought about it? Yes. So for my children's books, I've actually run um, two successful Kickstarters before. And Kickstarter's awesome. It's the reason I have been able to do as much writing as I've been able to do, because one of my kids' books is carrying my career, expenses wise. It's covering. It's only one title and a few translations of it. That is
Ooh,
basically paying for huh?
I needed to ask you and pick your brain about translations. That's something I have yet to do. I've done the Kickstarter
I've done
once
them for
this year. That's
kids'
my first time,
books. I
but
haven't done
yeah.
them for novels. And
Okay.
actually, one of the translations turns out was not very good, and I'm really bummed. I just figured that out because I had it proofed and everything. But anyway, that's another time. But the rest of the translations seem good, regardless. So that one book, I wouldn't have been able to afford to make it, and the illustrations and stuff. So I did a Kickstarter for it. That one's called "I Love You When You're Angry." It's like a therapeutic, heartwarming children's book about unconditional love and cute animals and things. And that one, basically, that one is doing well enough to cover for editing and graphics and cover design and everything that I need. It paid for me to go to Vegas. So that has been great. And allows me to be slower figuring out fantasy genre as I break into that and everything. Kickstarters are so exhausting. I did that one for 4 weeks, and then I did When a Donut Goes to Therapy, which is a kid's book, as you might imagine. And that one raised $10,000. So it did really, really well. My goal was 7. But it's exhausting. So I started one this past May for A Sweeter Hello, which is a military deployment book. Oh, thanks, guys. And that's coming out July 4th. But I canceled the campaign just because I had too many things going on, and I was so stressed out. So stressed out. So it's so much work. And I did the graphics, everything. I know the campaign looked good. There was nothing wrong with the campaign. But I was hustling every day of Donut to get that thing going, and it went great. But you never know. So what makes it so much work? The marketing of it. I mean, like anything, I can, the setup for it, I know how to set it up. I know how to do the tiers. Turn anything that could be text, make it graphic, basically. And just I did those 2 successful campaigns, and they went really well. And I was really fortunate. And my second one, I knew almost no one that backed me. So it was truly organic or from the efforts that I was doing. I had somebody tell me that they posted in 500 Facebook groups, and then a fraction of those will see your post as non-promotional and allow it to come through, even if it's not buy my book. I didn't set it up that way. I asked for feedback on different stuff, and anyway, whole different thing. Man. So it was just exhausting and taxing on me personally. Primarily because I felt like I had to be on social media always, and I'm already on a lot. And it felt to me this last one felt discouraging and fruitless because I had some personal things going on at the same time as I had some other things going on, and so it was too much for me. And I just told my husband I think I need to not do this again. So if I had a waiting group of people where I didn't have to cold market, I guess. And I had a waiting audience, a bigger waiting audience. I've had a number of people say where's the audiobook? When's that coming? But I don't feel like I have enough that I could, comfortably launch the Kickstarter knowing that I would have a boost at the beginning. You want 25% and within the first 24 hours. So it's...
Oh, I was going to say, and the thing is, if you don't reach your min bid, what I was told is you don't get the funds. So you have to, yeah, it's all or nothing. So just make sure whatever your minimum bid is achievable. So a lot of people, the strategy is to bid really low or lower than what really is valued, because you want to hit it. And then knowing that then anything, you're going to get the proceeds, you're going to go on and you just shoot up from there. And there's a whole strategy of what they call stretch goals and stuff like that. And it is a whole thing. My first experience was this year, and yeah. And
sorry,
I was saying, and trying to figure out all the things to offer for the different goals, because I was doing character art, and I had customized miniatures of some of my characters that are designed for TTRPG.
Yeah.
So D&D kind of play and stuff like that. And so it was a whole thing. It's a lot of work, but for the authors that, see success, it can pay off. I should say it can pay off. There's no guarantee, but it can. But it is a lot of work.
Yeah, and like I will never like knock it, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now if I hadn't done that. Hey Ty, I would never be, because like that one children's book for my first Kickstarter like allowed me to. I'm working less of my regular job now. Like I'm pulling back those hours. I started paying myself. I'm replacing my counseling income for all of the sessions that I'm not doing anymore already, which is crazy. And that book launched in 2021 in the summer, so it's not been that long. So I'm very grateful to it for sure. And it can do really, really well. It is exhausting, and I think just because I've done a couple of them, the novelty part of it is gone, and I'm like, ugh. So can I make a campaign that is professional? I think I can. Well, I have, I guess, but just because Brandon Sanderson to have a successful one, easy peasy. just PC Anderson. Yeah, that's all. I only need like however many fans he has, and then I'll have no sweat, no problem. So when I have that many people wanting my audiobook, y'all, I will set it for 1-day campaign and I will launch it. So anyway, so it is exhausting. It's a lot of work, but it can be very worthwhile at the same time. So it just kind of depends.
Now, audiobooks are a very different animal because people who read or listen to, depending on how you do it, audiobooks are not necessarily people who do print, or not necessarily the ones who do ebooks.
Yep.
So you're trying to market into a whole new category of readers, which is, it's hard. Like, that's the one thing is I'm still trying to break into the field of audiobooks, because though I have a lot of people who follow me who've found out they had audiobooks or requested it or reading it, but it's still a whole new marketing thing, and it's just another layer to add to your long-term strategy.
I know.
Yep.
Well, I've talked to narrators. I've looked into it. Maybe I'll pick your brain eventually too. And I really want to offer it, especially for people, like I've had several people tell me like why they, I want to offer it. But I haven't got up the gumption, because I want to be able to afford per finished hour, and I don't know, maybe that's the wrong tack to take. Maybe you can tell me more about it down the line, but right now I haven't gotten it. I think that's so awesome that you already have like 5 audiobooks. That's awesome. So if anybody wants more fantasy audiobooks, she's where it's at, man. She's already got some.
I'm learning the whole thing, but it's been a thing trying to figure out female narrator, male voice cast, pay in full, split royalties, all the things.
Do you go by, hey, Ashley has Audible credits and she'll check out your books. She needs more books to listen to while you mow. That's fantastic.
My first one I'm like clean, Portal Fantasy, Noble Bright, whatever you want, Magical Multiverse. The 12 Tasks is out, and then the first 4 of my Viking novellas are out at the moment. So the Dark Viking Fantasy.
That's awesome. I think that's so cool. I might pick your brain eventually. I don't know, man. I want to offer them, but I want to afford them, and I don't want to do a Kickstarter unless I have like a truly waiting audience. So I think so far I've just been telling myself like, just wait until like things organically grow and you have more of a seeking, like not just like comments occasionally and being like, hey, is there an audiobook? And me being like, no, sorry, like, oh, but like people being like, I want the audiobook, and then I'll be like, oh, well, here you go. So I don't know, we'll see. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, and there's the nice thing about it, and I know we have to wrap up soon, but like the nice thing about it is when I joined this platform, Book Talk, a lot of people were asking, just inquiring about audiobook, because there's so many people who the only chance they get to read is maybe if they're driving in the car or something like that. So audiobooks are very easy for them. I've actually had people who have sight impairments or are actually legally blind ask me about it, because that's how many Braille books are being printed every year? Let's think about it. So audio is like the way where a lot of people go so they can enjoy the same experiences that everybody else can. So it's a nice thing.
Or something where it's taxing to read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons for it.
Yep.
Somebody said, I'm scared of the audiobook format. I haven't done lots of audiobooks. I do enjoy them for car trips and stuff, though, sometimes.
Yeah, I'll admit I had not really listened to audiobooks truly as an adult until getting into this process. And then I was like listening to my own and getting into that like experience. I was just like, oh, I get it now.
That's
Oh,
so
I
cool.
kind of get it now. I haven't gone to buy any and I feel bad, but like, it makes sense to me why people would enjoy that medium.
That's cool. Yeah, I've enjoyed like snippets of it. I'm not like well versed in it either though. So part of me is like, I don't know who's good as far as narrator. Like, what am I looking for? Like, are they over dramatic or are they just right? Like, is this what's normal for it or not? And I kind of don't know because I haven't done a lot. Um, oh, as a writer, I love them. As a reader, I love them. As a writer, frightened. I get it. Yeah. So.
So if anybody else has any questions for us, we're here. And then if not, we'll probably wrap up because we have surpassed our hour by another half hour.
Oh my gosh, have we really? We have. Yeah,
I know
any
that was
questions?
super fast.
I'm getting eaten by bugs now. So I
Okay,
should
yeah.
probably go
So
shortly.
I want to say quickly, thank you so much for coming out and chatting with me. If you ever want to do this again, I do try to do them weekly. Oh yeah.
That's so fun. I am terrible at doing my own lives. By which I mean I don't do them.
It's easier to do it with someone else because then you have
It's so
someone to
much
talk.
easier. It's so much more fun.
And I love
I'm not
questions from
staring
you,
into the ether.
yes.
Yeah, it's just better because I don't have to really even prepare if I'm talking with someone because I just like, we know the things that we know. And so if either of us have any questions that come to mind as we talk, it just goes. And it's awesome. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for reaching out to schedule it because I like doing them. I just don't ever think to do them. So thank you so much. It's been so fun. And I will see you in Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to see how many other people end up.
I know one now. I know one.
You know one. You know at least me. And now I know several people there from last time. So it's so awesome. I'm so excited for you to come. It's going to be last time with the like UAV team. Audio visual. That's what I was trying to say. Wow. And that was great because I had like somewhere to be and something to do and an excuse to talk to speakers at the beginning, which was awesome. But I think now I want to make sure that I don't have to be anywhere so that I can just network exactly whenever I want, or just like hang out if someone's, available or whatever. So both were super good ideas though. And it was a really fun experience. Anyway, I can't wait to see you there. And thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun. And thank you all of you guys who hung out and listened to us chat for a long time, as it turns out.
A long time. It was a fun chat. But yeah, it's a long time.
It was a fun.
Well, nice to see you guys. And until next time. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye.